So today we're going to do the handover video on the Elddis Encore 285. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side, you can see that you've got your fill-up points. Remember, this is diesel, so your diesel goes up at the top, and this particular model has got AdBlue. Opening up the passenger door, on this particular model you have got remiss cab blinds, which you operate by simply pinching the little plastic clip and pulling like so. Pull to this point here and let it connect up with the magnetic strip. You've got these on each of your side windows and also at the front here. Now typically I find that it's a lot easier if you lead from the bottom of the remiss cab blind. So if you pull from the bottom, lead from it, and then let that follow up and clip in. They can get caught, these, they're quite finicky, so just bear that in mind. And as a rule of thumb with anything in a motorhome is if it feels like it is being forced, you're probably doing something wrong. So just take a minute just to evaluate what you're doing and just take a bit of care. Whilst on the passenger side, you can see that you've got your bonnet release catch here, which I'll undo for you now. Now, to be honest, there's not many things that you need to know underneath the bonnet. The main things that you need to know is if you're ever jump starting the vehicle. I'll pop the hood now and show you underneath there. So with the bonnet up, as I say, jump starting the vehicle, your negative goes onto this terminal here, and your positive terminal is just underneath this cap here. There's a little plus sign on there. It's a little bit difficult to see on the video, but underneath this cap, flick that up, and that's where your positive connects onto. They're the main things that you need to know. But just to point out a couple more things, you can see that you've got your engine oil here along with your dipstick below, your brake disc fluid, your engine coolant, your power steering fluid, and then finally your washer fluid, which is just on the end there. Moving away from the bonnet onto the side of the vehicle, you can see that you've got your two fridge vents here. Do bear in mind that if it is a hot day and you have got the sun beating down on this side of the vehicle, if you can, turn the vehicle around or try and keep this in shade, due to this being where the fridge obviously pulls all of its air from to cool the fridge, so bear that in mind. It's going to run a lot more efficiently if that is under shade or under cover in the hotter months. You've got two vents up at the top, and then at the back you can see that you've got your hookup cable, which is where you can insert your 230 volt to give you your mains electric hookup. Next, you've then got your water fill-up point. This is for your fresh water, so when you're on your site, you can use a food grade hose pipe, connect that into here, and then fill up the fresh tank. You know that it's full when it's overflowing. Once you're at that, you can then lock the cap. Moving on, you've then got a vent here that says Aldi. This is for your heating system. This vehicle uses an Aldi heating system, which I'll talk you through on the inside, but this is just the vent. It does get very hot, so do bear that in mind. And then underneath there directly, you've got your fresh water drain down point. Now you have three main drain down points in the vehicle. You have your fresh drain down, which is here. You have your waste drain down point, which is on the other side in a similar position. And then you've got your boiler drain down point. They're all very important, and whilst we're on the topic of them, you need to ensure that you drain down the vehicle every time when not using the van, especially in the colder months. Please ensure that all water, especially the boiler, is drained down and it's free of water to ensure that nothing freezes in the vehicle. So when on site and you're moving off and going home, let's say, all you need to do is screw that open, or turn that rather. That will dump the water. You'll have a massive grid on site, so all the water can simply drain out there. What I would say with all your drain down points as well, and this goes for your boiler as well, is once you've drained down the majority of the water on site, in the grid, I'd leave all the drain down points open, so as you're travelling along the road, the vibrations of the road are going to get all that water out, so it's going to be free of water. At the back, you've then got the LPG gas tank. With the lockers open, you can see this is where your gas bottles go and connect to your regulator, which is just here. You just have a pigtail which connect them. Obviously, please ensure that when travelling, the gas is turned off at the bottle to ensure safety. Going round to the back, you can see at the back, you have your cassette locker door here. You've got your bike rack above that, and your reversing camera just at the top there. Now, coming back down to your cassette toilet, it's really important that when removing the cassette on the inside, that the blade on the toilet is closed. Make sure that that's closed before removing the cassette. I'll show you how to do that. So with the door open, you can see the cassette. As I say, the blade on the toilet needs to be closed when removing that, which I'll show you on the inside. But to remove the cassette, lift up on this orange handle and then simply pull out like so. That'll release the cassette, and then you can simply pull it out and drain it. I'm just going to pull it out now, pop it on the floor and show you how to drain that down. So with the cassette out, as you can see, it's dead simple to empty this. All you need to do is swivel out the funnel at the top, remove the grey cap at the front, and then click the orange button at the back. That will release an internal vacuum and will allow all the water to come out steadily. You will notice that you've also got this little orange clip here which turns. This is what makes contact with the blade on the toilet and allows the cassette to open and close. Now that should always be that position. You should never need to turn that. If this is off by any chance like that and you try to put the cassette back in, it won't go in and it could potentially get jammed, so please bear that in mind. So make sure it's always like that. And as I say, once you've emptied it, you put a bit of water in there, you can shake it out, clean it out, and then you're good to go. If you have got toilet fluid liquid or cleaner, you can put it in the top of the cap here and put it straight in. But if you have got them toilet sachets, which just clean and they're more of a dry, they're in a dry powder form, you can put them straight down the toilet. But if you've got the fluid, put it straight into the cassette. So when done, all you need to do, flip the cap back up, pick it up, and all you'll need to do is put it back in there and let it connect into place. Coming over to the other side of the vehicle, you can see from this angle that you've got your large awning on one side along with your aerial at the top. I'll send you, you've got a solar panel on this vehicle as well, which you can just see the lip of there. I will send you a video on how to use the awning separately. It's dead simple. The main rule being with the awning is if it is windy, don't use it, put it back in, because as you can imagine, it is a massive sail at the end of the day. And obviously if it gets caught in the rain, that's all good, but you do need to dry that out on a warm summer's day, just to make sure that it doesn't get mouldy. Right, coming back down to the bottom, you can see that you've got your point for storage, which is just there, and next to that you've got an external barbecue point as well. All you'll need with this is a bayonet fitting which will connect into there. You can then turn this gas valve, ensure that the gas is on, and that will feed the gas through. Below that, as I mentioned, you have got your second drain down point, which is for your wastewater, which is just here, and the grey basically indicates that it's the wastewater. This works the exact same as the fresh, just turn that valve and let that water all dump, and you can leave that open when travelling. Next to the habitation door, you can see that you've got an external 230 volt socket, which is dead useful and handy for when you've got the awning out. And above that, you've got an external TV point, should you want to watch TV. You've then got your habitation door. These are just two magnets which will allow the door to stay open. Now, I'll move on to the inside and show you around. So now on the inside of the vehicle, you can see that as soon as you walk in on the right hand side, you have got your control panel. On your control panel, it's really easy to use. So just showing you this now. You can see that you've got your master button, which is just here. You've then got your pump, which will activate your pump for your taps. You've then got a button for the lights on the inside, and then a button that says awning. The awning is just an awning light on the outside, so it's a little door light. The lights, obviously the lights on the inside of the vehicle. Your master is in essence your on button, and that turns on and off everything on in the vehicle. So you can see that turns on and off the 12 volt system. And then finally on this side, as I mentioned, you've got your pump. Now to operate your pump, all you need to do is click that on. Please make sure that you've got water in the vehicle to begin with, to ensure you don't burn the pump out. To ensure you've got water in, click your pump, and then you can come over to your tap. Go over to all your taps, turn them on. This includes the shower. Turn them on and turn them to hot. What that'll do is it'll pull water from the fresh water tank into the boiler and then out of the tap. It'll spurt and splutter at first, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your hot water. Flick it over to cold, then do the exact same, and as I say, that'll just spurt and splutter at first, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system entirely. Now, the reason that I tell you to do the hot water first is your Aldi heating system will hold, or boiler rather, will hold approximately 10 litres of water. So for example, if you're on site and it's a bit of a cool day like it is today, you might want to turn your heating on as soon as you get in the van. Obviously you need some water in there to begin with, so if you can put your some water in there initially by putting it on hot and dragging it through the boiler, it'll put at least 10 litres in there. It'll feed it through and it'll keep it nice and warm in there, so when you come to want the hot water, it will already be nice and warm for you. Now, once you've primed your system for everything, including your shower, you can leave your pump on, providing, as I say, you've got water in the system, which you will have after doing this process. You need to make sure that all your taps are closed, because on each of them they have a micro switch. So you can leave your pump on, and you can put the tap on and off, and that'll activate and deactivate the pump for whenever you need it. Because on each of your taps you have got a micro switch on them, which will mean that you're never burning out the pump. So you're all good to go. As I say, the only time you should turn the pump off is when you haven't got any water in the vehicle. Now, moving back to the control panel, you can see that you've got a little bit of a digital screen here. Now, using the arrows here, you can flick through the options. At the moment, it shows that the fresh water level is 2%. We've only got a little bit in there at the moment. You've then got your wastewater level, and we've got 0%. You've then got the settings, but I'll move past that for a second. You've got an option to battery select, so that will, so in essence, it'll give you the option to either run all the lights off your leisure battery or your vehicle battery. You should always keep it on leisure, because the worst case scenario is if you run out of power on your leisure battery, you're going to be without any lights. However, if you run out of charge on your vehicle battery, you're not going to be able to move anywhere. So I'd always keep that on leisure. Never be tempted to flip that over. You've then got your leisure battery voltage. As you can see, we're plugged in at the moment, hence why it's reading so high. Now, just going back to your settings. Oh, coming back now. There we are. Click your settings. Now, there's not many things that you need to know in here. It just sort of gives you the options of the screen brightness, as you can see. Going through the options there. And you can exit to main menu. So that's the control panel. Very easy and simple. And that concludes that. Now, moving up to the top, you can see that you've got your Aldi heating system. Now, the Aldi heating system, as I mentioned, is a wet central heating system, and how it works is you have pipes in the vehicle. Water gets drawn through them pipes, and what that will do is, it's very similar to central heating. That water gets heated within them pipes, and that is what radiates and heats the van. Now, to operate the heating system, I have actually currently got it on, but all you need to do is click this button. That'll turn on the panel, or it would, but as I say, it was just on, so there we are. Click it on, and as you can see, it's all on. If you then click your menu button, it then gives you the options of what you can select. So we'll put the camera there. You can see that at the top rather, this is all touchscreen by the way, you have got your vehicle's temperature. So you can, at the max, it'll go to 30 degrees. So using the plus and minuses, you can change that. Below, you've then got your water temperature. You can have it at approximately 40 degrees or 60 degrees, depending on what you're using. For example, if you're having a shower, you're probably going to have it on 40 degrees. 60 degrees, you're going to be, click that again, you're going to be using that for when you're washing up, washing your pots and pans. Turn that off for now. Underneath, you've then got your fuel options. So this first little bar here, you can see you've got a lightning strike that indicates electric. So you've got the options of this. You can either have it off, so it's not heating the vehicle. You can either run it off 1 kilowatt electric, 2 kilowatt electric, or 3 kilowatt electric. Below that, you can then option for gas. So click that. and you can run the system off gas and a combination of electric, or you can turn your electric off rather, and run it just solely off the gas, depending on obviously whether you're wild camping or not. Obviously you need to make sure that you've got gas in the vehicle for that to work. You then got a settings panel here, so you can change the brightness of things, as you can see, and there's also a reset button. The reset button is the most important thing that you really need to know about in the Elddis system, and the only time you need to click that is obviously when you're resetting the system, because you'll have an error code on the panel. Now, the time that you'll get an error code is, for example, when you've selected a fuel that you've not got. So let's say, for example, I take this off electric and I select gas. As you see, I've no gas in the vehicle at the moment. So what that will do is it'll fault. You'll get an error code on there. And the reason it'll fault is obviously it's trying to power the vehicle with something that it's not got. So with that in mind, it'll fault. You'll get an error code on here. So you just need to click your menu, go into your settings, click down and click reset, as I showed you before, just onto there. That'll reset the entire panel. You need to wait approximately 20 minutes once that's done. And that is the Elddis heating system. You can see you have got two buttons here as well, which turn on some more LED lights as well in the vehicle. So opposite the control panel, you can see that you've got your kitchen area. As I say, we've discussed about priming your system. In here you've got your microwave, which is up top here. This is 230 volt strictly, so it'll only work when you are hooked up, so bear that in mind. It won't work when you're wild camping, because your leisure battery. Below that you've then got your hob with an electric ring and 3 gas, and then your oven and grill, which is below. Next to this you've then got your Dometic Fridge. Now your Dometic Fridge is a 3-way system. It's called a 3-way system because there's 3 ways in essence to power it. So the first one being you can run it off electric, which is this little icon here, this little 230 volt, this plug rather, this is for your 230 volt. So when you're on site you'll be running it off that. You've then got a little gas flame there, so when you're wild camping you can run it off your gas, and then for when you're travelling you can run it off your 12 volt leisure battery, which is obviously a little battery there. Now a lot of people think that they can run the fridge off the 12 volt when they're wild camping and not hooked up, but that isn't the case, because if it was you'd simply drain all the leisure battery of all of its power. It'll only run off the gas when stationary and when wild camping, so bear that in mind. Obviously for when you're wild camping. Now coming over to the side, you can see that you've got the option to alter the fridge's temperature, and then you've also got a reset button here, which is this little triangle, and similar, and you'll only need to reset this fridge similar to what would happen with the heating, is if ever you select a fuel that you haven't got. So for example, if you try and select gas at the moment, because I've no gas, it'll error and you may need to reset it, so just bear that in mind. The fridge does a very good job at maintaining the temperature of things, but not the best of jobs at getting it down to temperature, so I'd personally recommend putting cool things in the fridge and putting frozen things in the freezer. Coming away from the fridge, you just notice that I've just opened up this here. You've got a bit of storage in there, but I just wanted to show you that you have got 2 grey taps just at the bottom here. The grey taps are isolator valves. You may have some more around the vehicle. These need to stay in the open position. You should never need to move these or turn them. These are only for the technicians and for ourselves who are working on the vehicle. The only things you need to know about are obviously up here on this panel. Coming into the lounge area here, you can see that you've got 2 bench seats which face opposite each other. To turn this into a bed, it's really simple. All you need to do is pull this out, pull this other one here, and they simply meet into the middle. Once they've met into the middle, all you need to do is pull your 2 seats together, 2 cushions together rather. The backrest will then drop down and fill the gap from the window to the seat cushion, and obviously you can remove these and then you've got a nice big bed. You'll notice that in this raised section you have got a hatch which you can open and use as a bit of storage, helps for shoes and things. It is worth noting that underneath here you have got a second compartment, and in there is where your leisure batteries are located. Now underneath your bench seat you have got flip up travelling seats in this model. There's one here and also one on the other side. dead easy to set up, which I'll show you now. So once the cushions are off, the base is also lifted up. You can see that you gain access to the seat. These are really simple. To operate this, all you need to do is pull this forward, and then this pit, which is your backrest, will be able to pivot up. I'll do that now for you. As you can see, I've just pivoted that up. This will go further, of course, but at this position, if you just pull it to there, that will then allow you to pull this lever up, and this will release the seat base, which will allow you to flip it up backwards, which I'll do for you now. As you can see, this has now been lifted up. You can then go ahead and turn this latch to then straighten up the backrest. With the backrest now up, as you can see, it's taking place, taking shape rather. The seat base is the last thing that you need to sort, and to do that, is simply pull up like so, and this will connect using them little bars into the back here, which I'll do for you. As you can see, I've just pulled that up, connected that into the side here, and then you're good to go, and that's your travelling seat. You've one on this side as well. It's dead easy. You can appreciate it's a little bit difficult to see on the video because I've only one set of hands, or one hand rather, when filming. But yeah, it's dead easy, dead simple. To belt in, your latch is just at the bottom there. And obviously seatbelt you just need to work round and pull that across. So moving on from the lounge and coming back, you can see as you walk in, you've got this big door here. Open that up, you can see you've got your freestanding table, which just latches into place there. Back into the bedroom area, it is worth noting, before moving on, you have got a blind and one there, which will just connect to give you a bit of privacy and to divide the space. But as I say, moving back, you've got a TV point here, and in this cupboard, you can see that you've got your aerial amplifier, and then your solar panel regulator, which is your charger for it in essence, up at the top. Now, firstly, your aerial, you need to please make sure that before moving off site, this is always down and when travelling. But when on site, all you need to do, unscrew this cap, like so, push the aerial pole up, and then simply tighten the white cap in place. That will allow the aerial to extend. This, as I say, is your amplifier. At the moment, as you can see, it's off. To turn on, click that little button. You can see a little green light indicates to indicate that you've got a good signal, and then you can start watching telly. Sometimes, if that is green, you won't need to mess around with putting the aerial up. But if you are on a campsite, 9 times out of 10, you'll have to stick this up. This will be red, amber and green. Red obviously indicates it's a bad signal, amber half decent, and green good. So it'll allow you to point it in the right direction. You can of course swivel this as well. You have got a little bit of a little dial here to play around with the range of the aerial as well, just to help you out. Now, as I mentioned, your solar panel regulator is up at the top. For your solar panel, you don't need to do anything with it. A lot of people think that they have to mess around with it and click a load of buttons to operate it. But don't worry, this will do all the work for you. This regulates the charge that goes into the leisure battery. And as I say, your leisure battery, rather than topping it up, it'll more maintain it and will trickle charge the leisure battery. Coming away from your aerial, you can see you've got a bit more storage up here as well, along with the other side, and then your 2 low single beds. Underneath here, as I mentioned outside, is where your storage is, or the main bulk of your storage, and underneath here contains your RCD breaker, which is for your fuses in your trip box, and also your Elddis boiler system, which I'll show you now. So, with the bed up, you can see that you've got your boiler, which I mentioned, and your RCD breaker here. You have got a little bit of storage in here, which is a slide out drawer. To access your RCD breaker, just open up this flap and it'll reveal the front of it. Your trip box is up at the top, so if the vehicle ever trips, you can come to here. You have got a little T on there as well on this button, which indicates test. So for example, if you can't get any electric to the vehicle, you can click that button and that will trip. If these all trip, you know you're getting electric to the van, so there's therefore something wrong with your vehicle. So from there you can check all your fuses, but 9 times out of 10, if that doesn't trip, you know there's a site fault or a fault with your hookup cable, so you can always do that from there. As I mentioned, fuses are all below the bottom. If you ever need spare fuses, you can always go to the likes of Halfords and things as well. Coming back up, as I say, your boiler is then next. At the back here it looks very complicated, but you only need to do one thing back here, don't worry. You've got your pumps and, as I say, the boiler, but the only thing that you need to worry about is your final drain down point, which is for your boiler. Your boiler is the only thing that's on board, and as I say, this is probably the most important one out of the drain down points. You need to ensure that this is always drained down when not using the vehicle, and especially in the cooler months. So just drain that down. All you need to do is using that little yellow valve, you can flick that down or up. In the up position, it means that the boiler is open, so all the water which will try to go to the boiler will just simply drain straight out of it. And then to close it, flick that down like so, and that in essence completes the circuit, and we'll close the drain down. So that will allow you to pull water through. So when in use, obviously, flick that down. When not in use, flick it up like so. So finally, coming into the bathroom area, you can see you've got a bit of storage underneath here. We've spoken obviously about priming your system for the shower and the tap. Here's a bit more storage at the back for hanging as well. Last up is your toilet. As I mentioned on the outside, the main important thing with this is that to ensure that the blade is always closed when removing the cassette. The reason for that is often left open, so when you come to remove the cassette, it gets jammed, and that's how it leads to breaking. So make sure that the blade is always closed. When in use, of course, open the blade, and the blade is this piece of plastic here. Pull that towards you, and that will open the cassette. That will allow all the waste to drop down into the cassette, and once that is done, click your blue little button there, which activates your flush, and that will flush the entire system. Now it is worth mentioning that your flush will only activate when your pump's on, so do bear that in mind. So once that's flushed, you then need to close the blade. You close the blade for 2 reasons. 1, it gets you into the habit of obviously having that closed, as I say, but 2, it will stop any odours from escaping. Coming over to the panel, you'll notice that you've got a red light in there at the moment. This just indicates that it's full. At the moment we've just got some water in here, hence why it's showing that is full. But obviously when you get that, when it is in use, just make sure you do remove it. So that concludes the handover video on the Elddis Encore 285. I hope you enjoyed.